The 2026 Formula One regulations were supposed to mark a bold new era for the sport, but instead, they've sparked chaos. Drivers are fuming, team principals are calling emergency meetings, and the paddock is drowning in frustration. From radical technical changes that threaten to undo years of progress, to bizarre rule tweaks that leave engineers scratching their heads, the FIA's latest shake-up has landed like a bomb in the middle of the grid. Whispers of boycotts, political battles, and backroom lobbying are already circulating, and what was meant to be a leap forward now feels like a full-blown disaster in the making. Could these rules tear the sport apart before the lights even go out in 2026? What's fueling much of the outrage is the perception that the FIA has allowed certain commercial and political interests to shape the rules far more than competitive fairness. In private briefings, some team principals have accused the governing body of bending over backwards to satisfy the demands of heavyweight manufacturers like Porsche, Audi, and Mercedes, even when those demands risk alienating other stakeholders. Several insiders point to a pattern of regulatory concessions that seem less about sporting integrity and more about preserving lucrative relationships with these automotive giants whose marketing roadmaps depend on Formula One mirroring their road car strategies. For many in the paddock, this is not just about engineering philosophy, it is about who truly calls the shots in the sport's future. The FIA has unveiled a fresh set of catch-up rules for 2026 as Formula One braces for one of the most dramatic shake-ups in car and engine regulations the sport has ever seen. While the final version of the new power unit framework was signed off in June 2024, the governing body has deliberately left the door open for intervention if one team or manufacturer storms ahead with a runaway advantage. It's a move clearly influenced by the not-so-distant memory of Mercedes' 2014 masterstroke, when they perfected the V6 turbo hybrid era before anyone else had even found their feet. The result? Total dominance, with the Silver Arrows sweeping every championship from 2014 through 2020. That success didn't come cheap either. Mercedes' parent company reportedly poured close to a staggering $1 billion into the research and development needed to stay untouchable. Over the past year, the political maneuvering behind Formula One's 2026 powertrain rules has come into sharper focus, and it is now clear that German manufacturers played a decisive role in shaping them. The roots of this influence stretch back to 2017, when the FIA formed a working group of both current and prospective engine suppliers to design the sport's future power formula. Porsche, despite their failed bid to partner with Red Bull Racing, were vocal in pushing for four-wheel drive cars powered at the front axle by an MGU-K system. Conveniently, this mirrored the exact technology Porsche had perfected for its 919 hybrid program. It was a classic case of motorsport serving the showroom, proving that Enzo Ferrari's famous maxim, "win on Sunday, sell on Monday," still drives boardroom decisions today. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali admitted to Automotor and Sport last summer that his personal preference was simply to switch to climate-neutral fuels. However, as he conceded, we had to take the manufacturers' wishes into account. Those wishes were far from unanimous. Audi, Porsche, and Mercedes were united in their belief that hybrid technology represented the road car future. Ferrari, Renault, and later Red Bull lobbied instead for a return to more straightforward, cost-efficient internal combustion engines running on fully sustainable fuel. Ultimately, the German bloc prevailed. While the costly MGU-H heat recovery system was scrapped, the most contentious battle was over the share of electrical power in the total output. The Germans pushed hard for a radical shift, tripling the electrical contribution so that by 2026, power output will be split evenly at 50-50 between electric and combustion power. As recently as the Bahrain Grand Prix this year, the FIA was forced to convene an emergency meeting over the 2026 powertrain rules, with a last-minute proposal to cut the electrical output target from 50% down to 40% or even 30%. Such a change would have required near unanimous approval from manufacturers, but Mercedes and Audi flatly refused to entertain the idea. The internal tension was later confirmed by Nicholas Tombasis, who admitted that the final rules still carry more complexity than the FIA had hoped for. "The engines are still not as simple as we would have liked," he explained. "We would have liked to go further, but we had a lot of resistance against simplifying the regulations more. So there are things that we would have liked to be even simpler, but they are still simpler than the current generation of engines. They don't have the MGU-H, and there are a few things that have tighter limits, so we don't think the gaps will be as big as in 2014. Still, history has shown that even with safeguards in place, dominance can emerge, and some of the sport's most respected minds remain cautious." Adrian Newey, speaking during his official arrival at Aston Martin, warned there is every chance that one manufacturer could gain an early stranglehold. "There has to be a chance that one manufacturer will come out well on top, and it will become a power unit-dominated regulation, at least to start with. There's a chance that, if it's on the combustion engine side of it, that somebody comes up with a dominant combustion engine that will last through the length of the formula, because the way the regulations are written, it's quite difficult for people who are behind to catch up. The complete range of measures the FIA will use to help underperforming teams catch up in 2026 was not fully understood until recently. Now Nicolas Tombazis has provided more clarity. We do have newcomers, and it is always a risk at the start of a new cycle that there is some divergence initially," Tombazis explained. "Additionally, we have a cost gap for the power unit manufacturers now. This means manufacturers who fall behind cannot simply pour unlimited funds into their power unit programs. To ensure they still have a realistic opportunity to close the gap, the FIA has introduced a new mechanism into the 2026 regulations. This mechanism is called Additional Development and Update Opportunities. While the concept was initially left vague, it has been refined extensively over the past few months. Under the system, the FIA will assess the performance of every internal combustion engine during the first 5 race weekends of 2026. The governing body will then calculate the average power output for each unit, using a methodology detailed in the appendix to the regulations. Any ICE producing more than 3% less power than the highest rated unit will qualify for ADUO. These additional development and update opportunities will be applied throughout the season and will provide 3 key benefits. First, the manufacturer will receive an increase in the budget they are allowed to spend above the standard cost cap. Second, they will be granted extra testing hours on engine dynamometers. Finally, they will have the opportunity to re-homologate their power unit with the FIA. The final element of the FIA safety net plan addresses an extreme but potentially catastrophic scenario for a power unit manufacturer, a season plagued by major reliability failures. As Nicolas Tombazis explains, imagine somebody who blows up an engine each race weekend and each engine costs a lot of money. They suddenly find that they are eating their cost cap with blown engines. They have to reduce the development to stay below the cost cap, and you can imagine that would be an awful situation. To counter this, the FIA is discussing a new measure that is expected to be approved soon. Under this proposal, once a manufacturer exceeds a set number of allocated engines in a season, they will receive targeted cost cap relief. This would prevent reliability disasters from consuming the entire budget and crippling ongoing development. However, while this initiative would provide breathing space for manufacturers with larger budgets, smaller outfits such as Alpine and Williams could still face difficult trade-offs. For them, the need to produce additional engines might come at the expense of car development, forcing a delicate balancing act between performance and reliability. In the broader context, the FIA's approach represents a concerted effort to prevent a repeat of the kind of dominance seen during the 2014 to 2021 era when Mercedes secured an unprecedented 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships. The aim is clear: ensure that no single team locks the sport into another multi-year monopoly. Do you think the 2026 F1 rules were designed to make racing fairer, or have Porsche, Audi and Mercedes used their influence to shape the sport to their own advantage? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, goodbye for now.